The financial advice you received was not designed to make you wealthy. It was designed to make you manageable. Think about what that word means. Manageable. A person who works for wages, bulk saves in a bank account, carries a mortgage, and trusts their employer for financial security is not building a financial life. They are maintaining one, carefully, anxiously, one paycheck at a time, in a structure that generates enormous profit for institutions and almost none for themselves. And here is the part that should make you stop. That structure was not an accident. It was not the natural evolution of a fair system. It was built piece by piece, decade by decade, policy by policy, by people who understood exactly what they were doing, who understood that a population with debt is a population that shows up to work, that a population dependent on wages is a population that cannot afford to ask difficult questions, that a population that measures success by income rather than ownership will spend their entire working lives making other people rich and calling it a career. Warren Buffett has known this since he was 19 years old. He spent the next 75 years quietly proving it, not by breaking the rules, but by learning the ones nobody was supposed to teach you. What he found is in this video, and it will change how you see every financial decision you have ever made and every one you are about to make. Start with the most basic question. What is money? Most people, if you ask them, will give you an answer that sounds like a textbook definition. Money is a medium of exchange, a store of value, a unit of account. These things are true. They are also almost entirely useless for understanding how wealth is actually built and destroyed in the real world. Here is how Warren Buffett thinks about money. Every dollar is a unit of potential. It can be killed, spent on something that depreciates, consumed, destroyed. Or it can be deployed, put to work in a way that produces more dollars, which produce more dollars, which produce more dollars, compounding across time into something that bears almost no resemblance to the original investment. Buffett has described every dollar he spends as costing him not $1, but the full compounded value of that dollar across a lifetime of investment. A dollar spent at 25 in his mental accounting is not a dollar, it is $10 or 20 or 50, depending on how long and how effectively it could have been deployed. This is not a technique. It is a fundamentally different way of seeing money. And it is the first thing that was never taught to you. What you were taught is that money is for spending. The entire economy that surrounds you is built on that premise. Every advertisement, every credit card offer, every buy now, pay later scheme, every cultural signal about what success looks like, all of it is designed to convert your potential into someone else's revenue as quickly and efficiently as possible. The first lie is that money is for spending. The truth is that money is for deploying. And the difference between those two beliefs, accumulated across a lifetime of decisions, is the entire distance between financial dependence and financial freedom. The second lie is one you heard so many times it stopped sounding like a lie at all. Work hard and you will be rewarded. This is not entirely false. Hard work matters. Showing up consistently and performing well matters. But the statement contains a hidden assumption so enormous that the entire edifice of conventional financial advice rests on it. And that assumption is wrong. The assumption is that working hard and being rewarded are connected in a way that is roughly proportional. That the harder you work, the more you earn. That effort and outcome track each other. For wages, there is some truth to this. Up to a point. A harder working employee earns more than a less committed one. A more skilled professional commands a higher rate than a less skilled one. But there is a ceiling, a hard mathematical ceiling that no amount of additional effort can break through. And that ceiling is the number of hours in a day. You cannot work 25 hours. You cannot work while you sleep. You cannot work after you die. Every additional dollar you earn from labor requires an additional unit of your time, and your time is finite in a way that capital is not. Buffett understood this at an age when most people are still learning long division. He has said in various ways across decades that working for wages is renting out your time for a fixed rate. And renting out a finite resource at a fixed rate will never produce exponential outcomes. It will produce linear ones. And linear income, however large, will always be outpaced by exponential ownership over a long enough time horizon. Here is the number that makes this concrete. If you earn $100,000 per year in wages for 40 years, you earn $4 million over your career. $4 million. Before taxes, before expenses, before inflation. That is the ceiling of a successful working life. Warren Buffett's net worth increases by more than that before most people have finished their morning coffee. The difference is not that he works harder. The difference is what he owns. And the wealthy do not get wealthy by working harder than everyone else. They get wealthy by owning things that work while they are not working, by building systems that generate value independent of their presence, by transitioning at the earliest possible moment from selling time to owning outcomes. The lie is that hard work is the path to wealth. The truth is that hard work is the path to a paycheck, and a paycheck, however large, is not wealth. Wealth is what you own. A paycheck is what you are paid for what you do. And you can do a great deal for a very long time and own almost nothing. The third lie is perhaps the most insidious because it is wrapped in the language of responsibility and prudence. Save your money. Consider the specific story of the American savings account. In the 1970s, savings accounts paid interest rates of 5, 6, sometimes 8%. Keeping money in a savings account was a genuine financial strategy. The returns were real. The purchasing power of saved money grew. Then something changed. Interest rates fell. Central banks, over decades, pushed rates lower and lower. By the 2010s, the average savings account in America was paying 0.06% annual interest, 0.06% on a $10,000 deposit, that is $6 per year. Meanwhile, inflation was running at 2 to 3%, which means the responsible saver, the person doing exactly what they were told, being disciplined and prudent and financially responsible, was losing 2 to 3% of their purchasing power every single year while earning $6 in interest. They were getting poorer. Slowly, quietly, in an account with the word savings on the label. Buffett has never saved money in the conventional sense. He has invested it consistently, obsessively. The S&P 500 has returned an average of approximately 10% per year over the past century. Not every year, some years dramatically negative, but across time, consistently. The businesses that make up the American economy have compounded their value at a rate that makes savings accounts look like a slow-motion disaster. Why then are ordinary people told to save rather than invest? But does I mean it that of people told to save rather than invest? Why is the savings account the default recommendation for working-class financial planning while investment is treated as something exotic, risky, and beyond the reach of ordinary people? Follow the money. Savings accounts are profitable for banks. The bank takes your deposits, lends them out at interest rates far higher than what they pay you, and keeps the difference. Your savings account is not a financial tool designed to build your wealth. It is a funding mechanism designed to build the bank's. The lie is that saving is the foundation of wealth. The truth is that saving is the foundation of someone else's wealth, and investing is the foundation of yours. Stop. Before the next lie, the most dangerous one, ask yourself something honest. How much of what you just read did you already know, in some form, somewhere in the back of your mind? How much of this was not new information, but confirmation of something you had always half suspected? Most people, if they are honest, will say most of it. The problem was never information. The problem is that the system is very good at making the things you half know feel too inconvenient, too uncomfortable, too socially risky to act on. The mortgage you are paying, the savings account you dutifully fund every month, the job you stay in because the alternative is terrifying. All of it feels safer than the alternative. All of it feels like what responsible adults do. That feeling of safety, of responsibility, of doing the right thing, is the most powerful tool the system has. It does not need to hide the truth from you. It just needs to make acting on it feel irresponsible. Now, your financial future depends on your income. The higher your salary, the more financial security you have. The more you earn, the more you accumulate. Work harder, get promoted, earn more, achieve more. This framework, the implicit premise of almost every piece of financial advice aimed at ordinary people, treats income as the primary lever of financial outcomes. And it is wrong in a way that is almost perfectly designed to keep the working class working. Here is what Buffett understands that this framework obscures. Tax law in virtually every developed country is structured to penalize earned income and reward investment income. Wages are taxed at the highest marginal rates. Capital gains, the income produced by owning assets, are taxed at substantially lower rates. Dividends from stocks are taxed at lower rates. The tax code is a set of incentives, and the incentive structure in virtually every major economy says clearly, in plain writing, available to anyone who reads it, stop selling your time and start owning things. Buffett famously observed that his secretary paid a higher effective tax rate than he did. He said this not as a complaint but as a confession, a deliberate, uncomfortable revelation about how the rules are written. He was not bragging, he was showing you the rule book and asking why you are not using it. The rules reward ownership. They penalize labor, and the financial education system aimed at the working class teaches almost nothing about ownership, about equity, about investment, about the mechanics of building an asset base that generates income independent of your effort, while spending enormous energy on how to negotiate a salary, optimize a resume, and climb a ladder that leads, at its very top, to the best possible version of the same trap. The fifth lie is the one that holds all the others together. The keystone. Remove it and the entire architecture of conventional financial wisdom collapses. The stock market is too risky for ordinary people. This belief, maintained by a financial advice industry that profits from the complexity it creates and the fear it amplifies, has kept more working-class capital sitting in savings accounts than any other single idea in the history of personal finance. The stock market is volatile. Yes, it goes down, sometimes dramatically. The 2008 financial crisis, the 2020 pandemic crash, the dot-com collapse. These events are real, they are painful, and they are the primary exhibit in the case against ordinary people investing. But here is what that case deliberately ignores. Every single one of those crashes was followed by a recovery. Every one, without exception. The investor who held through 208 and did not sell at the bottom recovered all their losses, and then some within a few years. The investor who sold at the bottom because they were told the market was too risky locked in their losses permanently. Not because the market failed them, because the fear that was sold to them was more expensive than the volatility they were afraid of. Buffett has said that the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. The volatility is not the risk for a long-term investor. The risk is reacting to the volatility. The risk is selling great businesses at panic prices because you were never taught that the temporary price of a business is not the same as its permanent value. The market has returned approximately 10% per year for a century. Through wars, through depressions, through pandemics, through political upheaval of every imaginable kind. And ordinary people were told it was too risky for them. Not because it is, but because a financial advice industry that charges fees for managing complexity has no business model in a world where ordinary people simply buy the index, hold it for decades, and let the market's long-run return do its work. The lie is that the market is too risky. The truth is that not being in the market, leaving your capital in savings accounts, losing ground to inflation year after year, decade after decade is the real risk. The one that destroys wealth silently, without headlines, without drama, without anyone to blame. So what do? Because understanding that you were lied to is only useful if it changes something. The first is to start now. Not when you feel ready. Not when the market looks safer. Not when you have more to invest. Now, the compounding you have missed by waiting cannot be recovered. But the compounding available from this moment forward is still extraordinary. If you begin. Buffett's specific instruction to young people is always the same. Open a brokerage account, buy a low-cost index fund that tracks the broad market, automate the contributions so they happen every month without a decision, and do not touch it. This single action, done consistently across decades, will outperform the vast majority of active investors, not because it is clever, because it is patient. And patience, as Buffett has demonstrated across a lifetime, is worth more than almost any amount of cleverness. The second is to stop thinking about stocks as pieces of paper and start thinking about them as partial ownership in real businesses. When Buffett buys shares of Coca-Cola, he is not making a bet on a ticker symbol. He is becoming a part owner of a business that sells billions of products every day in every country on earth through a brand built over a century. The price fluctuates. The business does not fluctuate nearly as much. Buying the business and ignoring the price is not a sophisticated strategy. It is the only strategy that has worked consistently across time. The third is to stop optimizing your salary and start building your ownership. Not instead of your salary. You need the income to fund the transition, but alongside it every month, without exception. Every dollar of investment income you build is a dollar that does not depend on your continued presence at a job. The goal is to build enough ownership that the income from that ownership exceeds your basic expenses. At that point, the job becomes a choice rather than a necessity. That shift from necessity to choice is the only definition of financial freedom that actually means anything. Buffett calls this escape velocity. The moment your capital works harder than you do, he reached it in his late 20s. Most people never reach it at all, not because they cannot, but because they spent their entire working lives optimizing the wrong thing. The fourth is to audit every financial product in your life. Your savings account, your mortgage, your insurance policies, your retirement account structure. Ask one question about each. Who designed this and who does it primarily benefit? You will not always find that it benefits someone else, but often, more often than you expect, you will find that the product sold to you as a tool for your financial security is primarily a tool for someone else's revenue. Know exactly what you are paying, to whom and for what. Then decide whether the alternative use of that capital would produce better outcomes for you. The fifth is to read what Buffett reads, not the financial news, not the market commentary. The primary sources, Buffett's own shareholder letters, available free online, are among the most valuable financial education documents ever written. The annual reports of great businesses, books on how industries work and how competitive advantages are built and destroyed. 1 hour a day, every day. For 10 years, Buffett has said that knowledge compounds the same way money does. The investor who understands more makes better decisions. Better decisions compounded across decades produce outcomes that look almost magical from the outside and are almost entirely explicable from the inside. The sixth is to change what you measure. Stop measuring your financial life by your income. Stop measuring it by your lifestyle, by the car you drive or the neighborhood you live in or the vacations you take. Start measuring it by your net worth, the actual honest difference between what you own and what you owe. Track it monthly, let it grow. Let the number motivate you not to spend more, but to own more. The people who follow conventional financial wisdom measure income. The people who build generational wealth measure ownership. That single shift in what you track, what you celebrate, what you sacrifice for, changes every financial decision you will ever make. And here is what all 6 of these come down to, in the simplest possible terms, the way Buffett would say it, in one sentence if he had only one sentence left. Stop renting your life. Start owning it. Warren Buffett is 94 years old. He still goes to the office every morning. Not because he has to, because he built a system across decades of disciplined deployment of capital. That means every day he shows up is a choice freely made. That is what financial freedom actually looks like. Not a number, not a retirement account. A life structured around choices rather than obligations. He got there not by working harder than everyone else, not by saving more diligently, not by following the conventional wisdom that was handed to him by a system that had no interest in his freedom. He got there by understanding how money actually works, by learning the rules that were never taught in school, by seeing clearly from an unusually early age that the game had rules, and that those rules, once understood, could be played to produce outcomes that the people who designed them never intended ordinary people to achieve. The lies are expensive. Every year you believe them costs you compounding you will never recover. The truth is available. It always has been, and the distance between where you are and where you want to be is almost entirely a function. They lied to you about how money works. Now you know. What you do next is entirely up to you.